Yes, Anil. So I think good afternoon. So the course that we are talking about is called Agile Business Leaders Course, as you can see here. And
Mhm.
so this one involves a few things like assess what is your current skill sets, where you're strong, where you feel you need help in terms of growing. Like, what's your current role in the organization, Anil?
So I'm a security, consulting and architect advisory.
Okay, okay, okay. So security architect consultant. Then so what is your aspiration in the next 5 years? Where do you want to grow yourself, and where do you see yourself typically? So uh, so I'll say Anil Kumar, or is there a initial surname
Yeah,
against it?
initial is K.
Okay, fine. I will do that. 15 years of security. So has it been all in security domain?
Yeah.
Okay, security domain, and you currently work for Wipro as a security consultant, right?
Yes.
So one second. Okay, currently, let me create this on the desktop. Okay. So yeah. So what has been your career highlights? So your current role is that of a security consultant.
Yes.
Okay. And what's your aspiration as you go ahead?
So that's again a very tricky and
Very
question.
difficult question for a lot of people to answer. Yeah, I agree. Totally agree with that.
So I just follow what is the flow, how the business and technology flows. I just want to flow with that.
Okay.
That's the best thing to survive in this industry.
Yeah, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Um, just a minute, actually. So I think this side is a bit too. Uh, zoom.
Yeah.
One second, actually. So, okay, here I go to video settings. Hmm. I think let me do one thing. Maybe this is too bright. I think this is better now, no?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
better.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is better, I think. So let me do this. And yeah, so typically go with the flow. And so what is so basically this course is for people who are stuck in their jobs, like you are stuck doing the same thing for some time, and you want to go into a leadership role, like to the next level. So you want a job change, you want that hike, you want to showcase your abilities in front of your peers and your work group. So basically, how do you take yourself to the next level of climbing the ladder in either in your own company or elsewhere, so that you get the visibility, you get what you need to this thing. So basically, that is the overall point of it. Of course, going with the flow is fine, but what do you think you currently lack, as per your own self evaluation? Currently, what is the scope for improvement from your side? This is a self assessment part. So uh, what is that you feel you should be acquiring? Of course, we need to be abreast with the latest and the greatest technology, So that is a given for everybody. So you should be constantly updating, getting new certifications, and that kind of stuff. So, but from your point of view, what is that you need to improve upon? What kind of skills that you feel you currently lack?
Okay, so I don't say I'm lacking anything, but I would
Yeah,
put
well,
it
improve upon. Like basically,
another
what do you want
way.
to
Yeah.
polish or
So
improve
yeah,
upon, or like you want to go to the next level, and then what do
right,
you
right,
feel
right.
you need to have those kind of skills additionally
Mm.
in terms of what you already have?
So I need to. I think I need to work on having this business language, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
work on talking the
yes,
business
yes,
stakeholders
yes.
language.
Language plus I also want to have some kind of soft skills plus analytical skills.
Okay, skills and analytical skills. Okay.
Because I tend to more divert towards the technology whenever I something comes to talking and all.
Yeah,
But I am trying to practice that from last 2 years. Okay, so I'm able to see progress, slight progress in myself. Okay, as the things I'm doing in my current project. So I'm trying to learn and trying to adapt it.
correct,
So normally it's I take some time before I realize that yes, this is the actually process, this is the language has to be used.
correct,
For
correct.
example, if I'm directly talking, I'm not be able to capture those words or a language, but offline when I go and think, yes, this is the right word, this is
Okay,
how it should be done, this is how it should be processed. But
yeah,
if that thinking and knowledge, if it comes when at the right point, that would be really helpful.
yeah, yeah. So basically, understanding the customers, understanding the stakeholders well, and talking their language,
Correct.
and communicating effectively. Um, Basically, making technology choices and relaying it correctly to the audience, whatever it is. It could be internal stakeholders, it could be customers, or it could be your business partners, vendors, etc. Okay, so that is that makes sense. And
And also I think I need to acquire knowledge at a high level about the different businesses, like different
yeah,
BSFI.
yeah,
So
knowledge of
that is yeah.
various business units across the domains. Perfect. Yeah.
Right,
So because this is very important as you grow as a leader, as you grow in your organization, you're respected for the amount of domain, not only the technology depth that you bring to the table, but also the business knowledge that for which vertical are you working for. Like if it is healthcare, then
right,
you should
right,
be aware of all the latest things that are happening in healthcare.
right.
If you're working on banking, insurance, telecom, you expected to know all of that sort of stuff. So as your primary domain, what do you think is your primary domain, like one or two domains that you have worked mostly, like in your 15-year career? Like if you somebody would ask you, okay, which is the core area of your expertise in terms of domain? Tell me one or two that comes to the top of your mind.
I would say data center infrastructure.
Data center infrastructure. Okay, fine.
Right. So and next I would say currently from last 2 to 3 years I'm working on cloud. So cloud is also my primary domain now. I think these two are the primary.
Okay, okay,
This is
fine.
what I'm
So
doing.
basically, what I meant by domain was basically business domain also. What you've actually given out is the tech part of it. But from
Correct.
a business domain perspective, what do you think would be the business side of things? Like, would it be more of healthcare projects you worked on, or banking, or insurance, finance, or travel industry, life sciences, biotech? What has been your business area focus? Of course, you said that you need to acquire more of that skill as you progress, but in which domain have you worked the most?
I have worked on some of the banking, mining, and also telecommunication business.
Okay. Of these three things, if somebody would ask you, tell me the top one or two, so it would be banking and mining, or
I would
banking
go
and
with
telecom.
telecom.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you should be up and available for that sort of stuff, because they will invariably will ask you, okay, which is a domain that you're comfortable from a business side. So it's good to acquire technology depth, but as you grow as a leader, you're expected to know quite a bit on the functional side of things, the business. Why are you doing, you're setting up a data center business, so but why are you setting up the data center, like for which, solving which business problem, that
Mhm.
kind of thing has to come out very clearly
Correct.
from your this thing. So okay, that is one thing. So business domain would be these, and your tech areas would be what would be your tech areas? Is it going to be um, storage and networking? What would it be?
I would say networking.
Okay, networking. Okay,
Networking and mm, threat.
threat modeling.
What do we say?
Threat modeling.
Yeah,
Threat handling.
threat handling, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So threat handling. So and all security related stuff, right?
Yes.
Security. Security. What aspects? Application security, data security, business security. What in security are you have you been doing?
Infra and data.
Okay, infra and data. Okay, that's good. Fine. So these would be your current skills and your challenges. I understand. So these are the common challenges that you have come across. Most guys, typically after 10, 15 years of experience, these definitely are the challenges. Like, how do you talk to your stakeholders? Like, you don't know how things really pan out in the industry, right? How it works. Unless you worked in different organization units in your own company, you will not know what is expected of you as you grow as a leader, unless of course you've gone through some kind of mentoring or whatever. So that's where I found that whatever I have packaged right now here as a part of this one is quite useful to convey to a lot of people at this stage in their career. So difficultly, yeah, so we did the first part, which is assessing where you stand. Then I'll give you a separate questionnaire to let you know what your aspirations are as a personality. Are you more technology oriented? Are you have some bit of do you manage any people, Anil, right now? Do you have
No,
any people?
no, no,
No people management, so it's
no.
a IC, individual contributor kind of a role.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So I'll send you a questionnaire. Then you can actually do that questionnaire, and you send me the results. That will tell you what kind of a personality you are in terms of what is the level of uh, external focus, what is the level of internal focus, how much of people orientation you have.
Mhm.
It'll give you a clear thing about where you need to position yourself as you progress as a leader, because it's good to do work when you are one man himself, but as you progress, you're expected to manage at least small teams of 5 to 10 people as you progress, so that you are able to showcase your leadership skills and manage teams and add more value to the organization. So the way this is structured is that, and then you'll have a lot of these self-paced sessions that the videos that are there shared with you using a login and a password. So you're expected to go through those videos and complete the exercises at the end of those videos. Make notes of it, and whatever you're not clear on, just make a note of it, and then we can get on a call like this and clarify your sessions. And then you should be able to do some presentation on your learnings and stuff like that. Once you do that, then you can get a Agile Business Leader certification that I shall be issuing at the end of this program. Of course, once you complete the exercises and you're comfortable with the topic, I shall give you the intention is that you get more value out of this, because there is tons of stuff in the industry already which is giving certifications, but then something that involves a mentor plus e-learning is more effective rather than just the e-learning part. Somebody tells you, okay, you are right here, you're not right here, things like that. If there is somebody to guide you well on that path, then you obviously will not make the mistakes that a lot of others would have committed, and that's the best way to grow. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so the topics that I've chosen here are typically that of agile architecture. So how much of agility, because agility has become such a word that every industry segment is using, not just only the application development guys. Initially, it started with application development guys, but now you've got a daily stand up, and Scrum for HR has got a daily stand up, marketing has, sales has, infra teams have. So pretty much the concepts of agile and architecture needs to be understood by one and all. Like, how do you mix agility and architecture, and how do you run projects end to end, and how do you deliver continuous business value? So as opposed to the old way of waterfall was one way of doing things, but now in this agile fashion, how have things changed? How do you make use and sense of doing the project execution? So that is the first module. There'll be some exercises around that, which I will show to you what they are. Basically, that will confirm whether you've understood the slicing and dicing of various parts of how you will use agile in your day-to-day work. And then the second part is, of course, evaluation of skill sets and map your path. This we kind of had a discussion here. We know where you are. I'll send another questionnaire for you to tell you, okay, where you stand in terms of your personality, overall personality. What is your inclination more towards? Like, you could be more towards growing on a technology leadership role, which is also fine. Like, you can grow as an individual contributor forever also, which is also good. But this gives you the option to let you know, okay, what your inner compass is now and where you're headed to in the next couple of years. That kind of stuff. So that I'll tell you. The third one is digital transformation skills. So this tells you that, of course, it's if you are a leader, you're expected to transform solutions using digital transformation. So what is that typically meaning? It has got a lot of, like, agile, the word agile, digital is acquired a lot of meanings in the industry. What is it? Digital for somebody. Some people say, okay, you use big data, you use cloud, you use artificial intelligence, then we are doing digital. But digital is much more than that. It is understanding the customer's context and serving him well using customer centricity, using, of course, the latest and the greatest of the technology, which need not be the case, but you could. So there is a whole path of what is digital, how do you use a different set of processes that are involved in digital. So there is the entire body of knowledge, which is digital practitioners body of knowledge from the open group, is actually part of this module here. So there is a thing called digital practitioners body of knowledge. So I've embedded all of that there, which tells you how do you take a company to go from the startup to a team to team of teams and all the way to an enterprise. How do you scale that journey? So that is this module, which will quickly tell you as a leader, because when you talk to customers, they'll say, okay, we are on digital transformation. But a lot of people do only lip service to what is digital transformation without really understanding. It requires a combination of people, process, and technology to solve problems, that kind of stuff. So we will be talking about that as a part of this one. And then there are, how do you model architecture artifacts? So like how you use certain modeling techniques, like where do you use UML, where do you use high level architecture modeling to do stuff, and typically, how do you do the architecture modeling? One of the things that you came up was, like, you brought an Archimate diagram, and then you said, you wanted some help on, how that can be made better. So I've got a separate solution for that, which I've, based on your diagram, I've come up with what you need to fix in that diagram to make it workable. So I will talk about that later. And then of course the tools and techniques. Typically when you are on the path of architecture, like what kind of tools and techniques that you need to run your architecture practice or your leadership practice, in terms of how do you do solutioning, how do you create reference architectures, how do you do business scenario mapping, how do you evaluate architectures, how do you do the assessments, then how do you do balance scorecard, for instance. So there are some leadership tools that people use when you get to that role, like how do you evaluate competencies across quarter to quarter, year to year, and then like present it to management. So those kind of things I'll be sharing here. And as a part of the exercise, the sixth part, you will actually be looking at the various types of exercises that are there, which is already shared in a Google Drive, which will give you a good grasp on, okay, all of this is good as a concept, but now if I were to take and apply it in my job, I need to solve them as some exercises, and then how do I present it, that kind of stuff. So this will give you the basis for that, the sixth part of it. The seventh one is typically the service management and IT. So basically, everybody has worked mostly on either development or strategy or architecture or product management. Not many have worked on the operation side of IT, which means the ticketing or the service desk management, that kind of stuff. So basically, how will you understand how IT services actually work in practice? So what is the rationale behind the services, the uptime, the downtime, the SLAs? How will you reverse engineer your operating model, your business model based on service management concepts? That kind of stuff. So basically, when you say a cloud data center, you're setting up a data center in the cloud. So what does the SLA? What is 99.59s? What is 9.39s? All of that sort of stuff. So basically, how will you look at anything like a service and make sure that you're providing the best value for those kind of things? This gives you all of that ITIL knowledge that is crunched for you as services, as typically, which people acquire by means of going through the ITIL certification. But here it is a combination of a lot of industry knowledge that you're expected to know as a leader, because when you become go into IT leadership, you're expected to know, okay, not just the development side of it or the strategy part of it or the product management part of it, but the application delivery part of it, but you should also know that how a customer is using my service, so that you are able to leverage that gap between delivery and execution, because delivery is great but execution is pathetic. Let us say your service desk is having L1, L2, L3 support, but they do a very bad job of not providing taking care handling of the parameters, that kind of. So this module is going to be about walking you through, okay, what is the crystal distilled knowledge from that aspect, so that it helps you to keep an eye on the execution or the operation side of the business. Then 8 is evaluating various architectures. So here we'll briefly touch upon, okay, as a business leader, you are supposed to make certain choices in your industry on what are the different types of architectures that you need to evaluate. So how do you come with a strategy for evaluating your architectures? So is the architecture loosely coupled? Is it tightly coupled? Is it scalable? Is it highly available? Is it transactional? Is it eventually consistent? It is, how do you understand the strength and weakness of various architectures? That it has got multiple layers in the architecture, that kind of stuff. So this will be about those things. And then the 9 will be about the soft skills, which is about design thinking, systems thinking, critical thinking, innovation, and creativity. So how much of innovation do you use? How much of design thinking? What is design thinking? How do you use design thinking to solve, let us say you've stuck with a data center design challenge and you want to gain everybody's perspective and take the problem to a broader audience so that you can actually solve it in a much better fashion using a creative approach. So how will you do that? That kind of soft skills you'll come, because these days they use design thinking even in technology meetings also. Like, how will you be able to, you will be able, using this knowledge, you'll be able to run a design thinking workshop for your team or your own independent things, which will tell you, okay, this is the way I need to focus these efforts. No, that's that part. Then the security and enterprise architecture is basically looking at TOGAF and all the aspects of TOGAF, and how do you do a end-to-end security mapping with all the artifacts, with all the various parameters that are involved. So typically you will have things like if you go here, I'll just show you. So I think that you've already taken a look at some of them, right? So security and EA. Yeah, so basically this has got a lot of details in terms of how you take everything to an actionable fashion, because unless of course you've had real knowledge with what's happening with an enterprise architecture framework across clients and stuff like that, you will not know what is really required to get stuff done. So I'm actually making it into a very lively thing that people understand what it is, so that when you're talking about capability analysis, take real examples of how you can build capability, how you can present it to various stakeholders. So basically, how do you create SLAs and then address the challenge of SLAs in terms of the governance. So this is a sample module on governance, so that you get what all you need to do as a part of the SLA mapping, the governance mapping, so that it does, because people are okay with the concept, but when it say, okay, how much can you apply it to in your real world, they don't have detail on, like, how they can do it. So basically, how do you create a security awareness thing in your company? How will you send out these kind of details? So all of that fixes are being talked about in this module. So this one is about the risk mitigation. So how will you do the risk mitigation example of primary, secondary risk? Like how will you do a risk register, for instance? Then what are the typical risks associated? How will you handle them? And how do you give a score for the risk? Then how do you measure your KPIs? Then what kind of tools that you will use when you do monitoring? So how do you take an example of two-factor authentication? I've taken this in the case study. So I'm running the two-factor authentication for all the things. Like how do you do governance, for instance? What are the different steps that you will typically do when you're doing a governance project? So that you can tailor this for your own project and your organization when you comes to that. So this will actually give you a clear idea of, okay, what is that you need to do in terms of managing? How do you create checklists for governance? It's good to do governance using this step, which we learned in TOGAF, but then how do you create the checklists for saying, okay, these are the different security things that I need to have a checklist on. So what is the different ways and means of creating, and what are the different lessons learned? So how do you do the lessons learned part as a part of the migration? That kind of stuff. So this module is going to be all about those aspects, that the security. So an entire end-to-end security architecture case study will be looked at, so that you are easily able to talk this at any level. Like even if it means responding to RFPs, RFCs, or responding to a client request, you should be able to take a lot of this knowledge and apply it anywhere. That is the kind of stuff. Just give me a minute. One second. I'm getting a call.
Yeah.
Recording. Yes. So basically, the security part we were talking about. So this one is going to be an end-to-end enterprise architecture case study. And the next one is the business architecture part. So this will talk tell you about how to understand, make sense of what is there in the business architecture, and how do you gain that domain knowledge, or like you said in the beginning, that you want to acquire more domain skills or the business stakeholder skills, that kind of stuff. So basically, how do you talk their language, how do you understand, because as you progress your thing, okay, although you come from an IT background, you might be over a period of like next 5 to 7 years required to manage teams and understand the business part of it. So you will need to know those things also quite well. No, so this talks about the business architecture side. So this has got all the knowledge that you have in the business architecture certification of the open group. So it is packed all of that also inside it. Fine.
Okay.
And the case study EA transformation. So you'll get a presentation of how do you present an end-to-end EA case study for walking you through people. So a lot of it's covered here, but you'll get this like a presentation that you can use, like a template presentation. You put all these things and then you present it to your audience. So you'll get like a most of it is covered in section 10, but you will get a lot of that as a presentation in your 12 part. And then the 13th one is typically, have you done any pre-sales or post-sales kind of work, RFCs, responding to RFCs and RFPs?
I have an idea, but not much involved in company.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
have
So
contributed little bit wherever in part of the documentation I've contributed myself.
correct. So this one is going to be talking to you about those aspects, like what is involved in pre-sales, what is involved in post-sales, like how do you build a sales pipeline, how do you respond to an RFC, how do you respond to an RFP, and how much of techno business knowledge is involved in it. How do you have a consultative selling approach? So these days, consultative selling is very important, because instead of saying, okay, I have this, take this to the customer, you talk to the customer, find out what is his pain point, and then you try to address the need. So it's a win-win for both, instead of saying, okay, here is what we have got. The old way of selling is, this is what I've got, take it or leave it. But now it is like, okay, we will do this, we'll be a transformation partner together. You gain so much, we gain so much, and this is how we'll be doing it. Yes, I think you can move to a place where there's more light on your face, Anil. I think this is better. This is a much better angle. This is definitely better than the previous one. Yeah, I think this is a lot better. Only thing is you need to have some study lamp or something in front of you so that you are. But this is definitely better than what it was. Fine. So this is going to be about those aspects, about consultative selling and all that. And chapter number 15 is going to be about DevOps, why DevOps is integral to everything. So what is the question of shadow IT? So this is typically a question about shadow IT that is going to be coming. So you will need to know about, I'll show you. This is the one. So basically, how do you understand DevOps? So DevOps, as you know, is overpowering everything, right? So it's continuous everything, continuous build, continuous delivery, continuous integration, continuous deployment. So like now, of course, with security, we've got DevSecOps also. Then there is this bi-model IT, they call it, or multi-speed IT that Gartner calls it. So what is those things? Then there is a problem of shadow IT in many companies. Like, though you have your IT teams, your CIO, CTO will bypass your IT team, give that work to TCS or Wipro or Infosys or one of the guys. And so, like, how do you buy? That's your shadow IT stuff. So how do you, if there is a problem of shadow IT, how do you eliminate that, and how do you use innovation to tackle the problems of shadow IT? Create a culture of innovation that is important to grow as a leader, when you become things like that. And then how do you grow in the career using these kind of skill sets? So that is what we're going to be talking in the DevOps part of it. The other one is creating reference architectures. So this will be related to how will you plan the reference architectures parts. Like given any problem, you should be able to convert your current problem into a reference architecture so that people don't reinvent the wheel. Let us say you built a data center for your customer. So you've got a data center which is built for bank or an insurance company or a telecom company. So what are the challenges involved in it? Like where is the data collectors kept? Where is the data receivers? What is the middleware used? What is the load balancers used? So you should be able to create a complete reference data architecture for what you've got. So that would be this part of it. Then of course the next one is how do you build your thought leadership in terms of how do you write white papers, how do you make presentations. Like you can start very small by talking to just your teams initially, and then make a presentation to some part of your company, volunteer for some pre-sales engagements so that your presentation skills becomes better. And then of course the last one is how do you keep in touch with the technology. Basically that's about how do you update yourself, what kind of techniques that you do, how do you improve your skills in terms of communication, how do you keep yourself updated, what kind of groups that you should join, how should you take part bit by bit to improve your knowledge, that kind of stuff. So this is what I found out as something that a lot of people need. And a common thing that I found out by mentoring and coaching a lot of people across companies, across decision makers, like they've been engineering directors, VPs, who tell me this is what my team lacks. So I've collected from individual problems to company problems, everything. And then I said, okay, this is a nice mix of a lot of things. So if you do this well, then obviously your chances of success is much better than somebody who doesn't have this. Right? So you will be a much more polished, mature person once you have these kind of skills. So that is the way I have actually created this whole package. And I think what I've shared with you is I have a couple of modules already there. The rest of them are like I'm presenting it to certain people. And then there is a bit of chatter in between. They're talking to me, I'm talking to them, that kind of stuff. So you can skip those parts wherever it makes sense. And then I'll be uploading all the other videos also I have all the material, everything is there, but I just need to upload them in a logical fashion so that you get a mentor that you can reach out to, when you have queries on them and get clarification. Because this way of working is what I found the most effective way than just creating a course and say, okay, go and do it. So if you are also able to validate your thinking with a mentor, so that gives a completely immersive experience and learning. So I think this is how it will be. And in terms of the exercises, you pick up any of these modules that you feel you're comfortable with, because they can all be done independently. Let you take any module that you are currently there and the one that I've shared with you, and pick up that part. And then you just shoot me a WhatsApp right now saying, what is have you once you finish that module, tell me what is the exercise I need to do. I'll share you that part. So that will be the easier way. I'll make it more structured and more meaningful, like when we do the rest of it. But for now, you take up any module, they can be exclusively mutually independently done. Once you're done that, once you finish the module, you just shoot me a WhatsApp message. I will give you what exercises you need to do on them, and then you can be ready with that. Okay. Does it address your queries, Anil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see a lot of value in what is being done, right?
Yes.
As a part of this course?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So I think this is a ton of value being packaged. And I think it's going to be very effective if you're able to make use of it.
Great.
So I think that is what this point is. Thank you, Anil. I'm stopping the recording here, and then we can continue the conversation. 1 second.
Mm-hmm.